Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 6 of the Easter Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing a brand new Cricut papercraft project every day for 10 days. Today's project are these beautiful Easter baskets. There are 2 designs to choose from. The first has all of these lovely flowers around the edge, and then the second one has a cartoon bunny at the back who's reaching round and hugging the basket design. These are really sturdy little baskets and you can get a lot of treats in them. As you can see, just look at all of that chocolate. You can pick them up from the handles to give them to the person that you've made them for, although I might just be keeping this one all to myself. Let's find out where to get the free SVG files and then how to make these beautiful 3D Easter baskets. Let's get started. If you haven't already registered your free ticket for the Easter Craft Countdown, go to craftwithsarah.com/Easter to do so. Click any of the sign up buttons on the page and enter your name and email to register. Once registered, check your inbox for an email from me with subject line Easter Craft Countdown ticket information, or any of the other emails from me that you've been sent throughout the countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down the page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out craftwithsarah.com/Easter bundle to purchase immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Easter Craft Countdown. Each file will also be available to purchase individually from my SVG shop once the free version has expired. All downloads come in zip folders. You need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then go into Upload on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the files on your computer, or drag and drop them in. Within the download folder are 2 subfolders, one for the flower version of the basket and one for the rabbit version. We'll do the rabbit one first, so let's look in here, and then the file to upload is the one which starts SVG in the file name. Click and drag that in, and this is what it looks like. So I'll press Upload, click it in my recent uploads, and then press Add to Canvas. It comes in really, really big, but that's okay. It's because it's got all of the pieces next to each other on the page. It should load it in at 29.567 inches wide and 16.083 inches tall. You can resize it though if you want to make a bigger or a smaller basket. I'll show you how to do that. So we'll zoom out with this button here. And then we need to make a copy of one of these bottom pieces of the basket so that we can then resize that and then change everything else to match the new size. So scroll down the layers panel until you find them, and it doesn't matter which of the 3 you choose, although one of the ones where there's 2 of the same color would be better, as that one's actually a little bit bigger. This one goes inside the basket, which is why it's in a different color. So I've got this clicked, you see it's selected in my layers panel, then I can press duplicate to make a copy. This puts the copied layer outside of my group of all of the other parts of the basket, so I can change the color of this to something nice and obvious. Resize it to however big I want to make the basket, so at the moment it would be just under 8.2 inches wide and 5 inches in height along my base. So let's say I wanted to make a 7-inch basket that's going to be 7 inches from one side all the way to the other. One thing I will say is that they do kind of seem to end up a little bit smaller when they're actually made, but it is still a good indicator to change it to the size. Position that over one of the ones that's already there, then click the group of all the layers and then drag it smaller. Make sure everything is selected, apart from obviously the one that you copied. And I'm just going to resize this until it's roughly the same as that new blue. There we go. Then I can delete that one. And this would be my resized Easter basket where I know everything's still going to fit together because we changed the size of everything at the same time. We need to do a couple of extra steps before we cut this out. And I'm actually just going to undo all that resizing because I want to make it at the size that it originally came in at. So let's delete that one. There are 2 lines down the side of these pieces next to all the tabs, and these are going to be formatted to be a score line to make it easier to fold up the tabs. Let's zoom in again to make it easier to see. And with everything selected, I'm going to press Ungroup at the top of the Layers panel to separate out those layers. Then look down the Layers panel, and we're going nearly all the way to the bottom. And then you can see the 2 pieces with the crocodile teeth on them. And above that is your single line. So you click it and you see it's highlighted just that single vertical line down there. With that line layer selected, go into the Operations drop-down and change it to Score. If you don't have a scoring tool or wheel, then you can delete the score lines by clicking them and pressing the trash can up here. But I do have one, so I'm going to keep it. Then drag a little box around that score line and then the one layer that it sits on top of. Check in the Layers panel we've only got 2 layers selected, which is correct, and then press Attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut to do the score line on that particular bit of card. They need to do the same on the other piece, so look down again, find the single line, change it to a score line, drag a little box around those 2 pieces and attach them together. And that's actually all you need to do, so it's very simple. One thing I just want to bring your attention to is the brightly coloured bottom piece. This piece is optional but highly recommended, and the reason it's a different colour is that I recommend cutting this from something really thick, such as craftboard, maybe cardboard if you have a knife blade that you'd be able to do that with, because this is going to just sit inside the basket in the bottom as something to give it a bit of extra stability, so that when you've filled it up, and it'll obviously get a little bit heavy, the bottom is going to be nice and sturdy and isn't going to fall apart, which wouldn't be ideal. If you don't have any thick material to cut it from, then what you can do is just duplicate this layer a few times and cut it from just regular cardstock. It could even be the same colour as the rest of it if you want to do it from the same card, and then just put them all into the bottom. Just layer them up in the bottom of the basket just to make sure that it's got that nice sturdy bottom to it. But I will just delete those duplicates. This is now ready to be cut out, so I can click on Make It. And here are all of my pieces. I can change the paper size if I want to in here. And you can drag and drop shapes around to move them about. So for example, this piece, I think I could fit it on that first sheet. So let's click the 3 little dots and move object. Change it to that other one of the same colour. And there we go. That'll fit on nicely. And then I only need to use 1 sheet instead of 2. So go ahead, get everything looking how you want it to, and cut everything out from cardstock, and then we'll see how to stick it together in a moment. But first, I'm going to show you how to format the flower version of the basket. Here's the flower version loaded onto my canvas, and this one should load in at 32.385 inches wide and 15.452 inches tall. But of course, you can use exactly the same technique I showed you for the bunny to resize the basket to however big you want to make it. If we zoom out to see all the different pieces, it looks very, very similar. In fact, it's the same. It's just instead of the bunny pieces, we've got the flowers instead. Just like with before, we need to format the lines that appear on the pieces with the crocodile teeth or the tabs. So let's ungroup everything. I might zoom in one more just so it's a little bit easier to see what I'm about to do. Look down the layers panel, and there are a lot on this one because of all those bits of the flowers. It's going to wrap around the front and the back of the basket and look really pretty. So on this one, the line's right near the bottom. I've got this one here. Change it to a score line. Drag a box that just touches the score line and then this base piece underneath and attach them. And then the same with the other one. Oops, first change that to a score line, drag a box around them and attach them. And that's it, ready to cut. Here are all of my pieces for the Easter bunny basket cut out so that we can have a little look at what we've got. And I've already stuck the eyes onto this piece here. So just glued them on just so I didn't lose any of those little pieces. So go ahead and do that first. And then you'll have all of the layered cardstock bits here, which will make up our bunny. We'll stick that together at the end. I've got 2 hands with arm pieces on them. And then there's 3 ovals. So we've got the thick one, which was done from craft board. I didn't quite have any craft board, but this is really, really thick card. So that should work just fine. You've got 2 other ovals. One of them has a teeny tiny little triangle taken out of it, which we're going to use to help line things up. And then we've got our 2 edge pieces with the little crocodile teeth along those score lines. And then finally the pieces to make the baskets. There's 2 of this piece, which is going to be the bit that goes across, and I've doubled all of these up, so you'll stick them one on top of the other just to make sure that handle's really nice and secure. And then there's 4 pieces to make the bit that actually sits just inside the basket, and then that will join to the handle. And again, there's 2 each for each side. They'll be stuck one on top of the other for stability. And I think I'll actually do that first. So I'm going to move all these pieces away and then bring these in. This is going to be really simple. Just going to get some glue and stick one bit on top of the other. Make sure you have them lined up. We've got these pieces, which is just a strip, and then the other 4 bits are the same. There's lots of glue on here, so it's not going to come apart. As I find with cardstock, when you're going to be sort of bending it into a arch shape, this is going to go like this. Sometimes the card can sort of pop off the glue and make it come apart. So I want to make sure it's really well stuck. There's 1. 2. Make sure it's well lined up, otherwise you'll be able to see on the handle if it's not quite lined up. And then the 3rd one. And I did not line that up well, so at least with glue you can wiggle it about. Awesome, right, that can all go to one side to dry. And let's put together this basket, shall we? For doing this, it's going to be easier if you've got some paper clips, ideally larger ones like this, or little, the little tiny craft clothes pegs you can get. They would work well, or just something that's going to let you hold it in place. Otherwise, you'll be there for ages trying to hold it. You could use a glue gun, which might speed it up a bit. I'm not, because I'm really bad at glue guns and tend to get it all over my fingers and burn myself. So I'm going to use regular glue. So yeah, it does take a little while to dry, which is why I've got the paper clips. So I'll start with these 2 edge pieces, and I'm going to turn them upside down and then fold all the little tabs, or crocodile teeth as I like to call them, inwards. And that's going along that score line that we made. And we've got our 2 ovals cut out from our regular cardstock, not the craft board one. I'm going to start with the one that's got a teeny tiny triangle taken out of one of the sides. Don't even know if you can see, just about. There you go, you can see that. It's really, really small. But we're going to use this as a guide of where to start sticking the tabs, and they're going to sort of sit underneath it. So we're going to wrap it round like that so that the tabs go underneath this bit of cardstock. So when you turn it upside down, that's what it will look like, but obviously it's stuck a bit better than that. And then the reason we've got the other circle is to cover those up on the bottom. If we take a little look at the flower one, which I'm in the middle of sticking together, so ignore all the tape on it, but the bottom will be covered up so it'll be pretty. And then it's also nice in the middle too. You don't see any of those crocodile teeth. And we'll get onto this at the end of the video. I am recording things out of order today because I knew I had to leave a lot of glue drying time in between the different steps. So, I'm going to start here, and then the crocodile teeth you see are kind of on the inside here. And I'll start my first one where the little cutout is. So it'll just overlap that edge. And then the glue will go on the top of all of these. And because my glue does dry, I mean, it's fairly quick, I'm only going to go about a third of the way, I think, and get these stuck on and then put glue on the rest. We'll see. I'm not great at fiddly things like this, as you've probably noticed if you've seen any of my other videos where I'm doing something 3D. That's actually not going to work because that tucks under so much. I'm going to have to go and do all the glue at once. Okay, so start it on my little cutout. And then bend it round, get all of those tucked underneath. It's quite hard to see because there's a dark card. But you want to try and get it in. It's just popping off again. Try and get it in as close to the edge of the oval as you can, as tight as you can. Otherwise your base is going to have holes in it. There's probably an easier way to do this than what I'm doing, but it's fine. We'll get there. Right, now that's all tucked in. Just going to keep my fingers in there along those tabs until the glue dries. At this point, I can't use my paper clips because there's nothing to clip it to. So I'm just going to keep pushing, rubbing my fingers along it, getting that glue dry. And it's smushing out a little bit along the lines. It doesn't really matter because it's the inside anyway. It's going to be covered up with some tissue paper. And if any bits smush out along the bottom, we're covering that up with the other oval anyway. So this is what I've got, that half there, and my bottom has all those tabs there. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit longer before adding the other side. And when we do get to the other side, it's going to go in a very similar way, except we're going to overlap the edges so that they join together. So those ones will be stuck a little bit together, and then the same on the other side. This side of the box is now dry, so I'm going to move on to the other one and do the same thing. So I'm going to start, and I'll have this bit which only just sort of touches. It only overlaps the tiniest little bit. I'm not holding this in shot at all. There we go. So it just overlaps a little bit, and then this side overlaps a bit more, and that's because it's actually not going to probably sit on straight. It's going to be at more of an angle just as the bits curve around, but that'll become clear in a moment. I've lost my glue. Here it is. Okay. This time I'll go all the way down these tabs straight away. Learn my lesson. There we are. And I'll start with my little overlap. So the one where I've got the triangle. And that's just going to, oh, it would help if I put some glue down the edge too. Just a tiny little bit down there. And then that will overlap. And I'll add a paper clip on there to hold that in place a little bit, hopefully. Then begin the turny. Oh, that's popped off already. I don't know why I do these 3D projects. I really don't like them. I like how they end up though, so that's worth it, I suppose. Alright, let's do the rest of it and then come back to the end. This is where a glue gun may be easier because it would dry straight away. So it's not quite overlapping in a straight line, it's at a bit of an angle, you see? It's not quite going straight, but that's okay. That's just because of how the curve works. Something to do with maths, I don't know. Right, let's add a couple of paper clips. Keep that in place. And then work on the other side before my glue dries completely. And that will also overlap down this bit. Try not to get your basket becoming too misshapen, because it can do if you overlap it a bit too much. You see mine's not quite sitting flat, but it almost is, so I think I'm okay with that. It's a shame I just got my glue everywhere, but hopefully when the hands of the bunny come round, it'll cover that up. I'm just going to hold this in place a little bit longer for my glue to dry along the bottom where my paper clip can't reach. And then when this is all completely dry, we can add the handle. Now this has dried, I've got the outside of my basket all done. A couple of those little tabs are coming up. They might need a little bit more glue. I'm going to add the base piece on the bottom. So turn it upside down, and then this bit's just going to sit on there to keep all of those in position. Just add a tad more glue on these bits, because for whatever reason they decided not to stick. And then cover all of one side of this in glue. Then this fits just on the top. And it should hold down all those little pesky ones that are coming up. And to keep this in place without it sort of coming apart when it's drying, put some washi tape tightly on there, down both sides. And it just came off again. There, make sure it dries in the right place. And the same along this side. Then while that dries, we can stick the handle together. These two bits will sit inside the basket, and then this is the handle bit to go over the top. They're both symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which one you choose, but we're going to add our glue down the narrow bit on the top of one of these. So you see it's got a little bit out there where it gets thicker here. We're going to go down to that part. Quite a lot of glue, because when the basket's full it'll be quite heavy, so we need the handle to stay firm. And then glue that one there. And then the same for the other side. And once again, that needs to be really, really dry with the glue. So I'm going to put it to one side. Put that back into place. And while that is drying, stick the arms together. And these are pretty simple. It just glue the fluffy layer onto the hand layer. Let's also stick this together whilst we're here. And I'll start by gluing the pink bits on. That one in there. And then for the little folded over ear bit, I'm going to stick this with some foam squares to give it a pop of dimension, little 3D effect. This just sticks on. There. Similarly for the head layer, this will be popped out too. A little bit more 3D effect. And for this one we need to add more foam. So as well as putting it around the edge like this, you also want to put a good amount in the middle. We need this to be really, really well stuck to the back layer with the ears on it, otherwise it might come off when the basket is being carried. And we don't want our poor little bunny rabbit to fall to pieces. Line it up along the bottom. Make sure you get that bottom nice and straight, because this is what's going to line up with the bottom of the basket. So it needs to be straight, otherwise it might not sit level. There. And then finally, as I said, I've already done the eyes, so I can just glue this piece on top. Again, get that bottom line really level. And now put the eyes in exactly the right point. And I think we can now move back to this. Take that off. Kind of looks like a rugby ball at the moment. There. And I'll take off my paper clips in here because I'll need them for doing the handle. First things first though, put inside the craft board piece in the bottom. It just helps give it some stability, makes it stronger. If you're putting in eggs or chocolate or something that's particularly heavy, you may want to cut this sort of maybe 3 times just to give that base that extra sturdiness to make sure it's all going to sit nicely. Okay, my handle is here. That's all nice and dry. And this will just glue in either side. It's hard to see. There we go. So I'll start with one side, put my glue all down here. Again, you need a lot because when you're carrying this, when it's full, it's going to have a lot of weight in the basket. The handle needs to be able to take all of that weight. So one bit, and it's going to go in the middle to sort of cover your join line where we joined the 2 sides of the basket. And it's exactly the same height as the basket. Oh, that's actually not quite dry because it's coming apart. So curve it around the edge so it kind of curves to fit. I don't think you can see very well, but it curves to fit with the basket. And then I'll add some paper clips to hold that in place. I need one on there as well. Tried to do this a little bit too soon. And then same, where is it? On this side. So this one will glue in here. Tuck it in. Make sure it fits the bend of the basket. And add some paper clips or little bulldog clips or little pegs or something to hold that. And now, once again, we need to wait for that to dry. but I think we can probably get away with adding the bunny on the back whilst that's drying. So you're just going to peek over. Can you kind of see like that? Use my double-sided tape for this bit, I think, but I'll also use glue because the tape will hold it in place sort of straight away, and then the glue will dry and harden it so that it is more secure over time. Add a little bit of glue down some of that tape line. Okay, put the lid on. I'm so bad at remembering that. Okay. So decide which of your sides you want to be the front. Go for the neater side at the front. This is my neater side. The edge here is really nice, whereas on the back I've kind of got a couple of little gaps. So this will be my back. And just hold it, line it up. You can't really see, but I'm afraid I need it this way so I know when it's in the middle. Get the eyes in the middle and just hold it in place. And I wish I'd got more paper clips for this part. Let's just go grab some. And that's not going to help along the bottom. You see it's coming up a little bit already, so I'm going to add some more tape. Just try and reuse some of this. Pull it nice and tight. Again, a glue gun would do this instantly. I like to make things more difficult for myself. Okay, I've got two bits drying now. The handle and the bunny. When that is dry, then we can add the arms, which will wrap around from the back so that he's hugging the front of the basket. Here's my little bunny all dry. I've taken off the tape and the paper clips. I've just got a couple of bits left on my handle. So let's add these arms. These are going to stick on top of that little bit there and then wrap around. Oh, that was upside down. You want to stick the bottom of it on there so that will line up. And then it will sort of bend round, and then we're going to stick on some of those fingers, the bottom ones. And it won't quite fit against the basket all the way around. There'll be a little gap in the side, but that's okay. That's kind of what we're aiming for. I think I'll try my tape and glue trick again. That worked quite well. And this will wrap round, and then you can either glue it or use your foam squares to put it on the front. And you see, here's kind of what I meant about it not quite touching all the way around, but that's kind of giving that grab effect around the side. I think I'll go for tape, and it'll be my bottom. This would have been easier to do first. Bottom two fingers will be touching, and I'll put a bit of glue on there as well. I'm not putting glue on that top finger because that one will be overlapping a bit. One, and then I'll do exactly the same for the other side, only this time I'll add the tape first. Fab! There he is. So looks like he's reaching all the way around to hug the front of that basket. Once again, that glue needs to dry. I would recommend leaving it at least 24 hours before you actually use the basket, just to make sure it's properly dry and as stable as it's going to get. But then it's all ready to add your Easter eggs or whatever else you want to put in there and give it as a gift, or keep it yourself after all this hard work. But now let's skip to the other basket, the flower one, and see how to put that one together. Next, let's make the second basket design, which is the one with all of these pretty flowers around the edge. I've already stuck together the basket itself because it goes together in the same way as the bunny rabbit one. So all of that's done. It's got its little inner bit in there for stability, and that's all nicely dry, so I can start adding the decorations. We've got 2 copies of this pretty floral wrap, one for the front and one for the back of the basket. This one I've already stuck together, as you can see, but I'll show you how to stick this one, and they're both the same. Help if I put that in shot. They're both the same design, so they go together in the same way. And these are going to wrap. Whoop. If I can grab it, wrap around the basket like that, which is very, very pretty. Okay. Leave that one there, so I've got a little guide of what I'm doing. And then we'll start with this one underneath. I've laid everything into position just to check that I'm happy with the colours and that I haven't lost any of these teeny tiny little pieces. This is mostly all going to be stuck together with glue. There's only a little bit of foam just to pop out the flowers a little bit from the base. Okay, I'm going to move the flowers just off the edge so that I can then stick the green bits together. I'm going to try and keep them, oops, vaguely in position, she says, as she completely smushes that one. But there we go, kind of. I'm trying to get the glue in all the narrow pieces because this needs to be stuck on really well to stop it having any little bits that might get caught or ripped off when you're transporting the basket, or when someone's just kind of holding it or looking at it. And also because we're curving this around a curved surface for the edge of the basket, we need a lot of glue on here to stick it to the layer underneath, otherwise it might pop off with the curve. So lots of glue means it's going to stay on there a lot sturdier. It's a bit narrow though. Line it up along the bottom. We want the bottom to be perfectly straight because that's going to sit along the bottom of the basket. And then I've not quite put that right, so I'm going to wiggle it about there. Cool. Right, next to the flowers. The first layer of the flowers along the bottom will be done with my foam squares. I'm going to cheat and put the foam onto this bit. I just think it'll be a little bit easier. Oop. So there's some there, and then one last little bit that just kind of goes there. Peeling the tops off to get all the stickiness. And then I can, oh, I've missed one actually. There's another one there, that blue one. Right, so this is the bottom layers that are going on, the solid ones without the hole in the middle. And then the pieces with the hole in the middle will get glued on top. Again, I'm going to put the glue directly on here. Just make sure if you're doing it this way, you don't put any in the very middle of the flowers, as that's where the hole is to show this colour through. This top one with the 2 flowers has got an extra bit to go on for that second flower. So I'll just add that on at the same time, again with some glue. Now for the top flowers, for the tulips, the first layer is glued. So I'll put my glue on here, just those 3. And the daffodils, they'll work differently. Their bottom layer will be foamed, and that's because the tulips just have a few more pieces than the daffodils. And then our foam can come out. These daffodils are a little bit big, so I'll do 2 bits of foam. And then for the tulips, the next layer is foamed. And these ones, because the pieces are different sizes to the ones we've just glued, I'm going to add the foam on the back of this, just so I make sure I've got it in the right place. And the tulip, the next one, is the next biggest piece, which is this one with the 2 little prongs. And finally, this tulip. Now we're just left with glue layers. Got petals that go around the edge of this tulip. There's 2 of them, 1 for each side. This just gives it a nice little extra bit of detail. The daffodils next have a white bit which goes in the middle. And then a tiny orange bit, which I am struggling with. Then again, this tulip on the end has bits around the edge, just like on the first one. Finally, the little orange dots in the middle of the daffodils. 1, 2, and dab them into place. And that is the flowers done. So you'd need to do this twice, 1 for the front and 1 for the back. And they're mostly the same, except one of them, the grass, is a little bit longer, and that's just going to give us some overlap when we stick it onto the basket. It doesn't matter which way round you stick them, which one goes on first. So I'm going to leave this one to dry. Just put that a little bit more in the middle. And I'll start by gluing on this one. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to be the easiest way to do it. I'm thinking possibly a glue gun might work better, but then it will dry really quickly. I've had a little think about the best way to do this, and I think there are really 2 options. One is to use a glue gun to stick this on, but I don't want to do that because I am not very good with glue guns. I tend to burn my fingers. So I'm going to use a combination of my normal glue that I've been using for everything else and a tape runner just to give it a little bit of immediate stick to help it whilst the glue dries to get around that curve. I've also got some washi tape to hold it into position whilst the glue is drying. So we're going to give it a go. I didn't want to stick this on before we made the basket because otherwise I think it would have been really difficult to get the bend when sticking it together and getting all the little crocodile teeth stuck in. So here is my first set of flowers. I'm going to run some double-sided tape all along the bottom. And then a little bit in some other places. That's to give it some immediate stick, but this isn't that sticky, even though it says permanent on it. I think it would sort of come off quite easily. So I'm also going to use some glue. My glue. And then trying to not go on top of the sticky tape. But I also want to go around all these little spaces, just like when we were sticking the 2 bits of grass together, because if they're sort of not stuck down, then it's going to be quite easy to rip them by accident. Glue it on the bottom. Got to work quite quickly because the glue does dry quick. Not as quick as a glue gun would though. But I suppose you could do it in sections possibly. Like put a little bit of glue gun on that bit, get that bit stuck, and then just work round it. So, you know, there's always options. My tape's gone over the edge in a couple of places, so just going to fold that up. Okay. That looks good. Right, now to stick it on. It's my basket. And as I said, it doesn't matter which way round you stick it, but just try and get it fairly centralized. And then it will line up along the bottom of the basket. And you'll probably find that it goes over if you're using the wider one. I think this is. This might be the shorter one, I'm not sure. But it does just go over those join lines on the edge of the basket shape, which is quite nice because it hides them. And I'll push down gently because I don't want the glue to smush out. I'm getting that tape stuck. Also push down that glue. Now, as I thought, the little corners are coming up a bit because of the curve along here. And that's why I've got some washi tape. So I'm just going to put the lid back on my glue so it doesn't dry out. Get my washi tape. So washi tape's good because it won't tear your cardstock when you take it off. Masking tape would work too. Painter's tape. Just maybe give it a little test if you're not sure. And then I'm going to wrap this around the top and onto the bottom. And this is going to hold it in place till my glue dries. On there. Now that my middle bit's nice and secure, do it on the edges. So I'm using that just to get that edge bit to stick down. It's being a little bit stubborn, but that's okay. We will win the battle. I think that's going to need one more bit because that's still lifting. So I'll overlap it just to add a little bit of extra stability on there. There we go. And then I'm going to leave that to dry completely before adding the other bit on the other side. And depending on which way round you've done it, you'll find that one of them will overlap the other. I think this is my shorter bit. So it's just the little, I can't really show you, it's too big. The little edges there will overlap so that they'll end up touching so that you get green all the way around with no gaps. It's going to be so pretty. Right, I'll be back when that's all stuck together. Everything's dry and it's ready for the big reveal. I've taken the tape off and look how beautiful this is. And it wraps all the way around the edge. It's so lovely. And adding that flower really gives it stability, makes it a lot firmer. And now it's ready for me to add my goodies to. There we go. So it's just adding a little bit in there. And to go in, I've got a Easter egg. And there. A Lindor Lint Bunny. These are the best. I love their little wrapper and little bell. I think I've got too much tissue paper in here. They're not fitting. There we go. And then let's see if I can get one of my cream egg gnomes from the Mega Bundle in there. That's going to cover up the bunny then. You won't be able to see it. Maybe I will put that one in the back. And finally, a little basket of chocolate eggs, just to fill in the gap in the middle. Tuck that label in. And yeah, you can't really see it from that angle, but I will make that look a lot more beautiful before I actually give it. But you can see lots fits in there. It all picks up by the handle. And it is the most beautiful Easter basket gift. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make these Easter baskets out of cardstock. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 7 of the Easter craft countdown. Thank you for watching. Bye!